the quotes around the democracy.
Well, speaking, and it was Joseph Stalin who said those who what was his quote? The people who cast the votes decide nothing. The people who count the votes decide everything.
That's it.
That's right.
That's exactly it. All right,
and it's going to be interesting to see how this whole thing shakes out. These are the people, quite frankly, when we look at things like constitutional conventions, that I don't want writing the next constitutional next constitution for us or amending it. And that's the same people that you see as the superdelegates, as the insiders with the Republican Party. Let's go to our next caller.
All right, let's go ahead. I have a caller from Wisconsin. I can't see it from here. Is it Habu in Wisconsin? Okay, Habu has dropped.
Yeah.
All right,
go ahead.
I have Lynn in Indiana.
Go ahead, Lynn.
Hello, how are you?
Doing
Very
good.
well.
How are you?
Very well.
Thank you for calling.
Good. Both of you are sharp dressed.
Thank you.
Patriotic men. I'm happy to see you tonight. And as a veteran, I want to say something. As a woman, I also want to say something. Number one, I went and saw 13 Hours a couple months ago.
Yes.
In a college town, and 3 of us gathered outside, and all of us were veterans, 2 men, me a woman. We huddled together with wives standing around and my mother and cried. And other people who were not veterans were crying. At that moment, I realized Hillary needs to go to jail.
Yes.
And I was, in the Navy, and I went in 1992 when Bill Clinton became the president of the United States. And I'm here to tell you there needs to be a regime change, and it needs to be Donald Trump. Because even if you don't like him, you have to see, and if you care for any veterans at all in your life, you have to see that he is truly going to be for the veterans. So if you have a brother or a sister and you are a liberal or you are a Democrat, and you would never vote for Donald Trump, please, I'm just begging you, please just, from a veteran and a woman, you need to see what he's going to do for the veterans, because he is going to be the answer for us.
And I'm very refreshed to hear this, Lynn, as you say these words, because I run into so many women, and they say they're going to vote for Hillary just for the fact that she's a woman, that they want to be a part of history. But as the caller already said, already had Cynthia McKinney was the first, a female presidential nominee. But I'm glad you came to this realization.
It's not even a realization. I honestly, I haven't really cared for, to be politically correct a little bit. I'll be nice. I haven't cared for Hillary ever. And to me, if you cannot see the forest through the trees when she gets up and speaks any words out of her mouth, I mean, I feel sorry for you, honestly, because you need to dig in deep, and you need to see what the meat of the words coming out of her mouth are, and you need to see, if you have Trump beside Hillary, truly, who do you think is going to protect our country? And truly, who do you think is going to fight for our veterans? If you say Hillary, then you need to go back to sleep and wake up out of your dream.
The other thing that I think is going to be very important, because what we saw in 13 Hours was the absolute contempt for the lives of these people who had pledged their lives to protect America, America's interests, other Americans. Absolute contempt for them. And I think it's going to, the other shoe that's going to drop is this Secret Service agent book that's going to be coming out, because the contempt with which she treats her own bodyguards, these people in the Secret Service who are there, who will take a bullet for these people because of the office, not because she's Hillary Clinton, but because of the office, because she was simply married to the president. And the contempt that she treated them with, that they all say it was just unbelievable. They'd never seen anything like it. That is the kind of viciousness of this woman. And that's what makes her criminality possible, is that kind of detachment from humanity. It's a criminal pathology that she has. It isn't just that she made a mistake here or there. This woman is a sociopath, and she cares nothing for the lives of even the people who have laid their lives down to protect her. And I think that's the key thing. That was a great film. The only thing I would change about it, they didn't need to make a statement about Hillary Clinton and what she was doing. I would have liked to have seen them. They called it 13 Hours, and they kept showing the times there. I would have liked to have seen them put up, as they put up the time, to put the elapsed time, because we're sitting there the whole time saying, how many hours is this into this? You know, because it truly was amazing. Yes, you see it working out and you see it changing, you know, from daytime to nighttime and so forth. And so you get the idea that a lot of time has passed. You know, that's a full 13 hours. But I think that would have been even more powerful. And certainly it would have been powerful if they would have brought Hillary in. But then it would have been just dismissed as some kind of
it'd have been
polemic.
called a hit piece.
Yeah, exactly. So,
but it was a great film. Thank you so much, Lynn. We'll move on to our next caller. Let's go to CJ in Washington.
Hey, how you guys doing tonight?
Very well. Go ahead.
If you guys don't mind, I agree with a vast majority of the information you guys passed. I follow your guys' YouTube. It's how I got to watch the broadcast now. And one of the things that I wanted to bring up that apparently nobody seems to be bringing up is the family law reform movement that's growing in this country, specifically around the topic of Title IV reform. In Iowa, it was the #1 question on RealClearPolitics.org website, and then it got pushed to the Concord, or the New Hampshire debate, and the Concord Monitor took the questions, and they refused to answer the #1 question. And I don't know if you guys can find it, but Real Clear Politics had that is the #1 question is, do you support family law reform and Title IV reform? To date, only a few of the candidates that answered are like Chris Christie. There was just a few of them. But
we'll tell the audience what family law reform is specifically, because I'm assuming that you're talking about child protective services, but I'm not that familiar with the issue, quite frankly. So go ahead and tell the audience.
There's so many. Yeah, absolutely. There's so many problems when it comes to our family law court. I guess to break it down to Family Court 101 is that the government has set up rules for custody of children. And it's a very vicious game. There's many different branches. There's CPS, there's the court system itself, there's the attorneys, the state bar associations, all these interests in this gigantic $50 billion+ a year industry. And it all revolves around how much child support can be ordered. If you look into the Title IV Funding Act of the under Social Security Act, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm not going to cover too much of it unless you want me to, but basically it turns one parent into a visitor while the state can collect money on incentives through the Social Security Act. So any American that pays FICA, part of your money is going into this system. It's used for essentially taking away children from parents and producing visitors, not parents. And there's millions of people that are following right now the fathers' rights movement, parental equality movement. Is coming, more out of the politically correct era from the fathers' rights movement. It's a little taboo to say fathers' rights movement, but what we're seeing is our judicial branch, known as family law, is more of a court of equity and how much money you can afford to put out for an attorney. And meanwhile, like I said, it systematically destroys not only the individuals involved, but it also hurts our economy as far as, our funding goes for this. We fund it through the Social Security Act. So people want to know why Social Security isn't, solvent. It isn't sustainable. It's because we are taking money from it, and they're using that money to put it towards the executive, portion of it. There's judges are tied to how much money they produce in child support orders, is how much money the state can collect in this federal funding, and it's such a mess. It's so hard to talk about. There's so many webs involved in this, but the number. Yeah, it
seems like a very complex issue. I think I talked to somebody about this briefly when we went out to Albuquerque, as in one of the videos, and he brought up a similar, or probably talking about the exact same thing.
Tommy Queen. His name is Tommy Queen.
Oh, so you know him? Yeah.
And yes, and because we've been following you guys around the country at these rallies, trying to get your cameras to at least talk to us about family law reform. And I'm glad that you were, able to take my call. But the big issue that comes out of this is that our law enforcement doesn't know how to respond when things in court happen. Like, let's say one parent kidnaps another child. The bureaucracy that person has to go through to get their child back is so convoluted and so monetary based that if you can't afford to pay your child, they just take it away.
I get personal stories all the time from people who have been rung through either in a divorce type situation like that or with CPS trumping up charges against them. It is really criminal what our government has done. And on every level, it is out of control and unresponsive to the people. And it's difficult to do it on a case-by-case basis. So this might be something that maybe we can get our teeth into if we look at the family law reform movement. Because when people come to us with a specific case, there's always, there's so much background to get into it. It's very difficult to investigate it.
I'm not, like, for example, like, I mean, I have my own case, but what I'm trying to say is that the government has set up this arena for this to even take place. It's not based upon the Constitution. It's actually based upon admiralty law. And when you don't have the average citizen, like you guys were saying earlier, you know, the mechanic doesn't know the tax man. Well, most of the time, the computer technician doesn't know a family law attorney, or a soldier doesn't know a family law attorney. And to be perfectly honest, with veteran suicide the way it is, even in the VA's top list for problems for veterans, I think it's like 8 or 9 out of the top 10 issues for veteran are family court related. And a lot of it revolves around custody of children. It's kind of one of those unspoken, they know what the problem is, but they can't really fix it. And so that's why we push forward with this Title 4D reform and the family law reform, basically saying, do you support the right of or children, basically? Do you support the right of children to have 2 fit and loving parents and have those rights protected equally under law? Well, if you do, then you're currently against our family court system. I personally testified in front of our Senate Law and Justice Committee and our House Judiciary Committee here in Washington State. And right next to me was the family law section of the State Bar Association. I just got done testifying my case in front of them, and he comes up and he says, people do commit fraud. People do lie. People lie all the time in family law.
All right, CJ, I'm sorry to cut you off here, but we got to move on to our other callers. If you have some more information, you can send it to us at showtips@infowars.com.
And that's a key thing for people to look up. Look up family law reform. Look up Title IV, because I know there are a lot of people. Divorce is so rampant in our society. Almost everybody is going to get caught up in this at one point or the other. So it's something that we should all be concerned about. And on so many different levels, the judicial system as well as the government is just completely broken. And as he pointed out, it's not even remotely based on the Constitution anymore. It's just based on fraud, complexity, and bluff. Let's just put it that way. Let's go to our next caller.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, CJ. We have a lot of callers from Washington tonight. We have Carl in Washington. Go ahead, Carl.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good.
Oh, good.
Just wanted to say, long-time listener, first-time caller. Just calling about everything going on with the social justice warriors down in California. And, I mean, with Bernie taking the back seat, you know, I haven't met one legitimate, not in the media, Hillary supporter. I don't know one, you know, my age, my income bracket Hillary supporter. Haven't met one. And, you know, now that that's their only choice, how are we going to get those guys over to Trump?
Well, the issue I see when I go out in the streets and I meet these Hillary supporters that I was talking with Lynn just a second ago, a lot of people I meet that are voting for Hillary are voting for Hillary because she's a woman. And that's not to be sexist or anything like that. It's just what it is. I ask them flat out. I've done several videos about this. What is your favorite Hillary Clinton policy? And they'll either say that she's, you know, was married to Bill Clinton in so many words, or that she's a woman.
That's right.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah, well, I'd say her favorite policy is attacking the people that Bill Clinton has gone after and sexually assaulted.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to focus on our criminality. We're also going to have to tell them that we've got some common ground if they want to get this economy back. Look, there's a lot of people on the economic issues, you know, yes, not on socialism, but on the economic issues that Bernie opposes the Trans-Pacific and Transatlantic trade agreements because he knows they're going to take jobs. And we see a lot of people within the Democrat Party, like Alan Grayson in Florida, you know, who we wouldn't agree with on a lot of issues, but he understands and he's talked about what has happened with NAFTA, just looking simply at the trade deficit with Mexico as soon as they put in NAFTA. So there's a lot of people on the left that understand that. And so there is some commonality, some common ground there. And if we can appeal to them on that, on the fact that Donald Trump is an outsider who is opposed by all these people who have rigged this process, who have enriched themselves, then I think we do have some common ground. They're going to be very susceptible to all these counterclaims about racism and sexism. That's why this is all coming up. That's to keep the people, the Bernie people, on board with Hillary Clinton. It isn't going to fool